Hey, welcome to this quick interview on styling as a speaker. This is an interview leading into the Speaker Summit that's coming up later on this year. And one of our incredible sponsors for the summit is stylist Olivia Igwe. So she has been styling for a long time. I'm going to let her tell you about the details of her styling. She is a qualified stylist. She has styled people like the Princess of Monaco. Like, we're talking about a heavy hitter here. And today she's going to be sharing with us style tips for speakers in terms of how we use styling in order to elevate our brand. Olivia, welcome, gorgeous.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to delve into a couple of things that you guys can start implementing straight away because we're all about hearing and applying. So not about just talking. So I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Well, you better trust and believe I'm going to pull out every last detail. For those of you who haven't met Olivia before, she's actually my personal stylist. So if you want to go and see what some of her styles look like, seriously, just head over to my LinkedIn profile and you'll be able to see them. Everything in the last 3 years, has been styled by Olivia. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just styled by Olivia. So for people who were thinking stylist, Princess of Monaco, oh, okay, she just does the hoity-toity stuff with the famous people. It's not for me. Can you maybe give us a little bit of background on your styling ethos and your training?
Yeah. So I started initially as I actually wanted to be an architect, and then I realized that it was going to be 7 years when I told dad, and I was like, ugh, no, we're not doing that. Even though I love the architect and the stuff, and I just decided no. So I just didn't know really what to do until a headhunter had headhunted dad and talked about this school about being a designer. And so I thought, it could be cool to design pieces. I loved putting pieces together, but designing it, absolutely not. And then they had a section where it was styling. So styling magazines or putting when you see in the models, you have, or the red carpets, you'd have the person and then you'd put the pieces together, or in the magazines you'd have the outfits all aligned. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. Sewing is not my thing, but I could do styling. And so did Istituto Marangoni in Paris. They had just opened up at the time. And did the 3 years, had a blast in understanding photography, understanding, the history of magazines, to different models and designers, to Dior, to Chanel, and all that stuff. Loved it until to a point where magazines is great, and working with Karl Lagerfeld and various different other huge magazines was great, but the model doesn't, there's no real communication. It's like you just slap the clothes on the model. She has to be a size, the smallest size ever. And it just didn't bring any creativity. So I really wanted to know, okay, let me bring that more into understanding how people, their emotions, how does it work? How, if somebody doesn't like colors, or why does a dark blue or a icy blue work really well for a Norwegian, Denmark sort of woman, then it just looks wrong on your skin tone. Right. And so I did a qualification in Switzerland, and it just really got me to understand the colors, the autumn, the springs, the body shapes, which I didn't know we had. And even for me, understanding oh, I understand why this doesn't suit me, or I understand why you, Lavelda, this thing doesn't suit you, because we're going too much into the darkness. I still remember when we started working together, your wardrobe was so dark. It was it was really dark. So we gradually bought a little bit of color, even to, for example, the last one that you did in Nissan, that you were on stage, where you wore that bright green, that was such a power statement. But we gradually got you to where you felt comfortable for you to wear and still own what you were saying on stage. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. And then gradually, as I understood into styling, there's also branding and confidence that goes together. And I really believe that it takes up to 7 seconds for somebody to, well, less now, now it's like 1 or 2 seconds, because we flick on social media, but 1 or 2 seconds for somebody to like you, have an opinion on you, judge you, even think if they like you or not, without even speaking. So that's why branding and the colors and the styling is so important, for you to be like, I just need to show up, and we can dive deep a little bit more into that. But it's the intention is so important, because in today, a deal could not go through because of how you stand for yourself.
There's lots of stuff you said in there that I find super exciting, in particular when you start, because initially it was models. And I think a lot of speakers will go, well, that's just not me. I don't look like that. I don't feel like that. I don't have that kind of style. I'm more kind of an everyday sort of person. So when you start to talk about color psychology, body types, what actually works for different people, what people are comfortable with, it then becomes, and that's one of the things that I love with working with you. It's so much more accessible in terms of, what's going to work for me so that I feel comfortable on stage. You mentioned branding. Why do you think speakers should even care about what they look like on stage? We're paid for what we say. Why should we care about what we wear?
Um, that's an awesome question because I also thought the same thing. I could just roll up in anything and, people take me as I am. But I really realize in today's world, the the content that you post, yes, is good, but also the clothes that you wear has a heavy weight. Because today people are very much, we're not auditory anymore. We listen, we see, we smell. And so you need to factor all those in. And I know it's like, oh, but this is like another thing on my plate. But branding is showing up as the same person that you say you're going to do. And I feel that clothes and how you show up for yourself is the same thing. We know McDonald's because we know there's the color of the yellow and the red. Like even just seeing the M, it's McDonald's. I want you guys to think this is like as a brand, that's how you have to be. It's a business, it's an intention. Starbucks, you know what you're going to get. And so even if the color, like I can't go into, for example, what's that brand where they do sandwiches? For some reason, it's not coming out. But
Subway?
hmm?
Subway?
Subway. I can't go into Subway. There you are. The colors, the branding, the people, the way they modeled, I've never had a Subway. But I'll go into Five Guys because Five Guys, like I like the burger, etc. So it's understanding that not everybody will like you, but it's understanding that branding today, it's a non-negotiable. You have to have something that sticks because if I'm listening to you and I saw this the other day. I was somewhere, I can't remember where I was. Oh yeah, I was looking at bodybuilding. Don't ask me why. But anyways, I was looking at the guys that were bodybuilding and the ones that were presenting, their looks were so bad. Oversized trousers, like it just didn't, it looked like the style was stuck in the 1970s, 1980s. And if you had just toned or maybe had your trousers a little bit more, maybe tighter, or your shirt not oversized, I am sure it would have just looked like crispy clean. Today, your visual is so important.
It's interesting because I think often we'll spend time on branding. We'll do a branding exercise and brand shoots and all of that sort of stuff. And yet, every time we show up, we are the brand. And it's so easy to forget that how we show up is a representation of it. And we really don't want to be creating a disconnect between what people see online and then who we show up as on stage. There should be a level of kind of consistency there as well. That being said, I'm gonna push you, girl, because I'm just curious from your perspective, the speakers in particular, what are some maybe like key styling tips that you can give us that'll help us to push our style forward and show up in the best light for our brands?
Okay, love that question because these are small little things that you can tweak and you can change, but it's understanding that your body was not what it was in, 20 years ago or before COVID or after COVID. So you've got to understand that your style is going to have to evolve depending on your body shape. Understanding what kind of body shape you have is super important. So if you're a square or if you can Google this, like the 7 different types of body shapes, but understanding what will have you stand out a little bit more. So for example, if you have like broad shoulders, like a swimmer, you don't want to add too much emphasis on your shoulders, but you want to add more emphasis if we're talking for a woman, probably onto your waist or adding a little bit more jewelry or things that like maybe your lipstick that will shift. Now, for men, it would probably be depending on your body shape, depending on how you look. It's maybe the colors that you're wearing. I know we talked about, we could talk about things not to do and to do if you have a TED talk, but it's understanding those and understanding what you can change in your wardrobe, what does not suit and that looks ugly, throw it away. It's time to evolve. We're in 2024. You can always upgrade your wardrobe, you know, we have outlets. You can also just go, there's different ways of like shopping. You don't have to go to Chanel to get a whole suit, although Tom Ford have really nice suits for men, but that's another subject for another time. Colors also, what I would say, and I know it's not something people tend to think of, but your aftershave or your perfume that you're wearing, that it shifts and it moves you into confidence, into when you feel that you're a little bit low in energy. When you smell good, automatically your posture is a little bit more, it stands a little bit more, it stands out. And then the colors, maybe add a bit of color into your wardrobe. I'm not saying you have to add a lot, but you know, maybe blue is the color of the communication. You know, it could be maybe a scarf, or it could be maybe a blue shirt. Those are really good for if you want to open a conversation. Red will have you feel as if the person, it's aggressive color.
Do you know what's really interesting? I find sometimes when people want to stand out, they navigate to a red. So hearing you say red is an aggressive color, actually, if you're going to navigate to one, blue is better.
Yeah. Look at
Just
yeah.
saying. Just blue is better. It's also interesting to hear, like, what I've taken away from what you just said is, firstly, if it's not working for you, you haven't been wearing it, it might be time to throw it out. Like, it might just be time to admit that you have evolved as a human, and we don't need to live in the past hoping that we're going to be able to get back to a certain look. It's okay to say, I'm in a new season of life, and in this season, the jackets are now the thing where they weren't the thing before, or dresses are now my thing where it wasn't the thing before, or I'm now more casual. So be okay with allowing your style to evolve. Look at colors, they're not scary, you know, maybe just a little pop here and there, and understand your body type. What are some things that people should, speakers in particular, should just stop doing when it comes to dressing for stage?
Looking bland. If one can say that. I really want you guys to understand that for men, okay, if you're wearing a suit, whatever, but it could be, I don't know, like the pins or, you know, the scarf that you have on the side that's a different color, that could have you stand out. I really do believe the COVID era has just made us more lazy than anything else. And we've fallen into the sweatpants, and we've fallen into just, you know, the casual things. But having clothes that make you look and feel good, that you don't put on every single day, automatically your posture just changes and shifts, you know, because it's just automatic. I really love people to stop wearing reds and blacks, because your goal is not to blend in with the background. Your goal is to stand out. And blacks, just depending on the background, just doesn't have you stand out. I know your voice is perfect. I know, you know, what you have to say is great, but maybe the shoes. You know, I know this guy, Rakan Khalifa. He's an entrepreneur and an investor. He always has, he wears generally the same, like a nice suit, etc., and jean, but he always has, and I don't know if you guys remember, these Gucci sort of slippers that have like fur on the side. Like he has like 6 of those, but that's his brand. Like he loves them all the time. And fair to say, he looks actually really good in it. I wouldn't be able to pop that because I'm like, that just doesn't work for me. But everywhere he goes, the Middle East, Canada, wherever, he always has them, and that's his sort of stage, like that's what he's known for. What can you be known for that people remember you, you know, every single day? My dad has 2 watches. Every time you see him, you know that he has his 2 watches. It's like, okay, dude, like you got to read the, but because like for him, that's him. So it's those small, those things. And please, like, stop wearing clothes in the 1980s that just were oversized. It's time to refine like your body shape. I think especially if, no offense, but if there are Americans here, like your American style, it needs to evolve. You know, can't wear oversized clothes. Really start wearing shirts that are fitted for your physique. You know, wearing quality material too. That's really important. I'm not saying you have to shop in Tom Ford, but you know, maybe online we found really cool blazers for you that, you know, weren't that expansive, but looked really, really good. So you can blend middle and high end, but you have to take a risk.
I love that you say stand out rather than being bland, because if there's one thing you hear speakers say really often, it's they want to be really engaging. And I guess styling is being engaging before you've even opened your mouth. It's that thing that you get there and there's an immediate presence when you get on stage. And I've seen sometimes people think, oh, it's easier for women than men. I've seen men who've had like jackets, just really interesting blazers, and that's been their thing, right? Or really interesting ties. And I think it's what is that point of interest that we can integrate. The big one, though, is the background color. Girl, when I tell you,
I always, every time you and I work together, I'm always like, what is the background? Because once I know the background, we can work backwards, like we can reverse engineer. Because that's when you were on stage in Nissan, I knew we needed something that had you stand out from afar. So even if people didn't really know you or remember, that's the thing also people don't understand is like if they don't remember your name or they have hard time, because not a lot of people remember names, and you probably should. You should read the book Jim Quick. But if you don't, you could always say, oh, the girl that had the bright green trousers, she was really good. Because people will remember colors, they'll remember how you smell, but they won't always remember your name. So that is also why it's super important.
there's so many layers here. Memorability. I mean, the thing about we covet speaker assets. We want great video footage. We want great photographs. And what you're wearing in those videos and photographs makes a really big difference. I remember getting back some photos and I just wasn't popping. I think that's what it was. I felt great when I was delivering, but when I put that photo on my website, it was not giving. It
Not
was
giving.
not it was not, jumping off the page. And so a lot of the work that you and I have done together is looking at the context in which I'm going to be in. I'm not sacrificing comfort because that's just not me, but also being able to look at it and say, well, how do we ensure that you look as good as you feel, right? That those two things are sitting hand in hand with each other. Speaking of that, in terms of how do we balance trends in speaking with our personal comfort and style? Because it's so easy when we're thinking about styling and outfits to think that that now means, you got to be uncomfortable in the name of fashion.
You have to sacrifice your life, and that is it. No, like, come on, guys. I'm the sort of person that I see the trend and I'll probably wear the trend 3 years later. That's just how, like, I could probably flow. I'm not saying you have to follow the trend, but what I am saying is if in the trend, as there's colors that look really, really good on you, buy them so then you can just use them in your wardrobe and they can last for a long time. I always talk about you to you when we talk about investment pieces that you may have to invest a little bit more in a higher price, but that you could keep for a long term, that you could reuse. So I don't really believe in trends, but I do believe in the season that they post things, because the thing is, like, for example, Zara, every 2 weeks they'll change their merch. So meaning that if you saw something that you liked and you want to get it in 3 weeks, best believe you will not find it again, because that's just how, like, they want you to consume. But if in the trend there is something that you like, go for it, get it. It's just it's understanding and seeing what would suit your body shape and seeing the long term, which I think I'm gonna put myself some flowers. I'm pretty good at seeing things that you could reuse on different levels and, play around with it. But that's like another thing. So trends, I do think they're important, but you don't have to, follow and cut all the newspapers, in the magazines to see which one you should. It's the balance of understanding what would suit your body shape and type.
Last question, because you've mentioned body shape and type a lot. What is what's your kind of word of wisdom or take on body types and styling? Because, for people watching might be looking at you and going, girl, it's all right for you. Do you see yourself?
Thank you. So I just really do think every brand needs to evolve. And it doesn't mean that you don't need to shift everything, but it could be, the shirts. For the men, for example, it could be a special brand that doesn't do the fits anymore and the cuts are not nice. So it could be rolling with nice polos or nice shirts, or, if you don't like showing the brand, it could be maybe getting customized shirts. Just because that will have you stand out. I don't believe in, because I don't believe you can wear the same thing, but I really do believe style evolves over time. And it's always nice to get a new, fresh sort of pair of clothes, or when you get into like a fresh new car, the model of the car is the same. You maybe wanted a BMW X5, right? But you're wanting to get the newest version, which is the X6. The model of the car is the same. It's just, it's evolved in having, maybe more features, and not being scared of adding color. I know I always say that, but your body shape generally, when you were born to who you are now, will not change. It's your weight that will change. It's the way you hold yourself that will change, which also brings down to confidence. Like if you don't like your body, we maybe need to accentuate on going to the gym or working out or moving your body, right? But maybe also understanding in the space that you're at right now, what is it that we can work on? So if you don't like showing your tummy, maybe having sort of oversized shirts, but maybe your neck is a little bit more, there's details around the neck. So your stomach is it's not showing, especially for women, being pregnant or you're losing the weight or whatever. So small little things. Shirts for men, of course, well, with the shirt you probably do, but you could wear, I see some guys, they like wearing three-piece suits, which look really cool. Or even in French, you have les bretelles, those things that you would wear to hold the trousers.
Mm-hmm.
Is it dungarees? No, not dungarees, but those,
No, they're not called
yeah,
dungarees. They are,
those,
we know what they mean. Suspenders.
there you are,
Yeah.
suspenders. I've seen a couple of guys. I mean, I was in Miami last week, and one of the guys was wearing like whatever, those things. And he looked fine. The man was, and that was a small little shit. He was wearing a simple shirt and those. I'm like, okay, so that could be one.
So for people who've been listening and Olivia, you've been absolutely dropping gems here. Guess what? It's not over. If you're coming and joining us at the Speaker Summit, Olivia is going to be there with a stand, ready to answer all of your styling questions. If this has inspired you to start thinking, I could probably have a look at what I'm wearing on stage, and perhaps I'm still dressing for a season 2 seasons ago, and I'm time to shift, it's time for me to shift it on. We'd love to see you there at the Speaker Summit. Olivia's going to be there to give you styling guidance throughout the whole day. And if you want to have a look at some of her work, just go and check out my LinkedIn page. Pretty much all of the recent photos on there are, pretty much anything that you're going to find easily has been styled by Olivia. So we will see you at the Speaker Summit.